What's up guys, and welcome to the next episode of the F1 2017 Next Gen Championship. We're here today with episode number 3, and we've got a double header for you guys. We're going to be starting off in the USA and then going to the famous Spa-Francorchamps circuit. So I'm really looking forward to it. Hopefully you guys are too. If you are new to this series, then do go and check out the playlist on the channel. Without further ado, let's take a look at the grid now for race 1. So, of course, we have reverse championship order in this series, and the only two drivers not to score points in the opening 2 rounds are occupying the front row of the grid. That is Matsushita alongside Lando Norris. Just behind them are Antonio Fuoco and Richard Verschoor, scoring just 1 and 2 points respectively so far. On the third row of the grid is Pierre Gasly alongside Calderon, and it's very much a surprise that Gasly is that far down in the championship. And then behind them on row 4 we have Alfonso Celis in the Force India and Pascal Wehrlein in the Mercedes, one of only 2 drivers to have scored in both races so far. The 5th row of the grid and rounding out the top 10 are Nick De Vries and Mick Schumacher. They both have 8 points respectively, and Sergei Sorokin and Antonio Giovinazzi are just outside the top 10 for the US Grand Prix. Following them in 13th is Dan Ticktum, and myself, I will be starting in 14th position. Just like Wehrlein, I have currently scored points in both races so far. 15th is Ollie Rowland, and Charles Leclerc is just behind him in 16th. Both of them have scored podiums so far this season. And then rounding out the grid are Alexander Rossi and Luca Giotto, the 2 drivers to have scored 2nd places so far. And in 19th and 20th are Carlos Sainz and Esteban Ocon, our 2 race winners so far. So yes, that rounds out the grid, and now it is time to get into the action for the US Grand Prix. So as I mentioned, we're starting P14 and it is lights out and away we go here. It's a very poor start for Giovinazzi, so we're going to try and get past him, and are we going to be able to do so? They've squeezed Giovinazzi. It was almost a repeat of the Singapore Grand Prix. Myself and I believe it was Richard no, it would have been, sorry, Dan Ticktum, who almost squeezed Giovinazzi out, but we actually managed to get a great start up into P10, making up 4 positions. And there you can see in the lead of this Grand Prix is Lando Norris by the looks of it, so looking very good for the young Brit. But we are also inside the points at the moment and trying to manoeuvre our way past Mick Schumacher, who is just behind Tatiana Calderon at the moment. So that is why the traffic is moving so slowly. And as I've mentioned before, this reverse grid action just means that you know, you've got the likes of the Saubers and McLarens in the top 10, just causing utter carnage. And down this straight now, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a few drivers go for moves, and Schumacher is going to be one of them on Calderon, and we're going to be 3 wide now going into the hairpin at the end of the DRS straight. Obviously DRS not active at the moment, but that doesn't stop us from going for a double overtake. Unfortunately, Schumacher actually ends up coming back at us, but we still do manage to get the move done on Calderon, and that takes us up into P9. So we're scoring some decent points at the moment, but well, it's points, maybe not decent points at the moment. But anyway, we're going to take a look at a replay of the start. And Matsushita, who started from pole position, had an absolutely dreadful start. There you can see that's where Lando Norris got into the lead, and I believe that was Antonio Fuoco getting a great start round the outside. But then as we go onto the straight on lap 1, that is when Richard Verschoor made his move into the lead of the Grand Prix, getting ahead of Lando Norris. But anyway, we're going to get back to our point of view on lap 2, and there you can see Matsushita, who started from pole position, is now holding a whole gaggle of cars up. Pretty much his position, which is 6th, all the way down to the back of the grid, are tailing behind him, and he's already been passed by 1 and now 2 cars going into the braking zone. It is in fact both of the Force Indy cars, Celis followed by Schumacher, and Matsushita is now locking up. He's completely lost his rhythm and he's currently sitting in P8. But surely that isn't going to be for long. If we try and go possibly down the inside of him, that would be a lovely move if we do manage to pull it off. And sure enough, we do. We get ahead of yet another Sauber driver. And now as we skip to the front of the grid, you can see now Richard Verschoor becoming under pressure from Pascal Wehrlein, who's had a great start to this Grand Prix. Started in the back end of the top 10, I believe, but he makes a lovely move into the lead of this race. Verschoor, I don't think will be too disheartened, because it's still going to be some good points for him. But as we look now towards the tail end of the points, and myself, you can see that Lando Norris, who had such a good start, and was leading halfway through lap 1, has now been passed by both Celis and Schumacher on lap 4 of this Grand Prix, but he does fight back on Schumacher, and we're going to actually try and take advantage of that, and we go down the inside of Schumacher. Lovely move, and hopefully now we'll be able to get some good traction around the outside of Lando Norris, and sure enough we do, up into P6, and boy has this been a successful race for us. Circuit of the Americas, definitely up there with one of my favourite tracks on the calendar. As you can see, Pascal Wehrlein unsurprisingly setting the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, and sure enough that was enough for him to take the victory here in America. He comes across the line, and that is surely going to take him into the lead of the drivers' standings. Now Richard Verschoor, great P2 for him, and a great podium as well for Antonio Fuoco. The great start really coming to fruition, but we come now around the final corner. We couldn't catch up with Celis on the final lap of the race, but nonetheless a very good performance from ourselves, if I do say so myself, and some good solid points coming back to the Williams base. So there you can see Toto Wolff looking very happy, and rightly so, because it was another win for Mercedes. And it's interesting actually to see that even though we've got this whole reverse grid thing going on, 2 of the 3 wins so far have gone to Mercedes, and the other one went to a Red Bull. So yeah, there's no stopping Mercedes even in this reverse grid races. And there you can see the final race results. So it was Verschoor and Fuoco, as I said, rounding out the podium, with Pierre Gasly and Alfonso Celis also getting some good points. Matsushita and Norris, though, did manage to get off the mark, and well, so they should have done, starting from the front row. But yeah, pretty good for them. And there you can take a look at the tail end of the grid. So not a great run for my teammate Luca Giotto there in 17th place. And now Nick De Vries, what an awful race it was for him. So pretty unlucky to be put in that McLaren. But there you can see, as expected, Pascal Wehrlein takes the lead of this championship by 7 points. And it's still a Mercedes one too. I mean, like I say, nothing can stop Mercedes. Very surprised actually to see Ferrari so far down. Giovinazzi in 9th and Leclerc in 12th. So they should be ones to watch in the next race in Belgium. But yeah, anyway, there you can see the bottom half of the constructors' standings, and yeah, obviously that pretty much makes up the grid. So once again, it's going to be Norris and Matsushita starting on the front row of the grid, and unsurprisingly, it is Mercedes at the front of the constructors' standings, but ourselves, we're pulling Williams through, and we are in P2 at the moment, so can't really complain at that. But now it is time for race 2 of this video, and we are at the Spa-Francorchamps circuit for the Belgium Grand Prix. So I'm looking forward to this one. Obviously Spa, another favourite racetrack of mine, and let's take a look then at what the grid is looking like here at Spa. So once again, the front row is occupied by Matsushita and Norris, with Tatiana Calderon on the second row of the grid alongside Nick De Vries. So it really is Sauber and McLaren dominating the back of the championship just like normal. But then starting in 5th place is Sergei Sorokin. He is alongside the Toro Rosso of Dan Tickton, with Mick Schumacher and Pierre Gasly in 7th and 8th. A pretty good result for Schumacher last time out, which has really brought him into proceedings. Charles Leclerc and Ollie Rowland round out the top 10, so Leclerc will be looking for a good result this time out. And there you can see Alfonso Celis and Leclerc's teammate Antonio Giovinazzi starting just outside the top 10 in 11th and 12th. So hopefully some good points for Ferrari this afternoon. Antonio Fuoco, after a good result in the US, starts alongside his teammate Alexander Rossi, with Luca Giotto and Richard Verschoor starting just behind them. In 16th place is myself, so yeah, a few good results in a row now mean that we're just sort of creeping towards the back of the grid, and I'm starting alongside Carlos Sainz, and in 19th and 20th are the 2 Mercedes cars, so they will be prowling from the back of the grid, but it will be difficult for them to get any points. So once again, a great race in store, and now you can see we are lining up on the grid for the Belgian Grand Prix, and we go to 5 lights, and away we go. We've got Richard Verschoor alongside ourselves, so we should be able to get quite a good start, and our teammate Giotto thought about possibly going down the inside there, and it really is a bottleneck here at La Source at turn 1. But we don't actually make up any positions, just sort of, you know, trying to keep out of any danger. Obviously, Belgium notorious for, you know, for being well, the place of a lot of crazy starts in F1. But now you can see they're about 3 wide on to the Camel Straight, one of which being Giovinazzi and Alexander Rossi also alongside him. We're trying to overtake the 2 of them, and Giotto has got a great start, but we try and dive down the inside of our teammate, and there's a little bit of contact with ourselves and Mick Schumacher, but nonetheless we do manage to get up into P14 just behind Luca Giotto, and once again the tail end just stepping out there. And yeah, we want to be trying to avoid any curbs around here, but now trying to go around the outside of Giotto doesn't quite work. But nonetheless, it's still been a pretty good start, I'd have to say. You know, starting in 17th and getting up to 14th. But now we're going to take a look at a replay of the start. So, as I mentioned before, it's Sauber's and McLaren's on the front row of the grid. And Matsushita this time gets a great start. But the best start of all goes to Sergei Sorokin, going from 5th all the way up to 2nd. So he is going to be in with a very good chance of scoring a podium this afternoon. But rejoining the action with ourselves. And just, you can see there, we're gaining so much. There must be someone with a pretty slow engine up ahead. Probably a McLaren. No, it isn't. It's Tatiana Calderon, who has had an awful start to this race. But we just dive down the inside of the bus stop chicane and get up 3 positions, I believe, into P11. So Calderon, who I believe started in 3rd position, is already down into 10th, and sooner rather than later she's going to be out of the points, because I'm sure we're going to be able to make a move on her pretty soon. So now as we come towards the most iconic part of the circuit at Eau Rouge, we thought about making a move down the inside, but we do have the Camel Straight, the entirety of the Camel Straight to make a move. And as we look further forward, you can see the 2 orange McLarens there, one of which is being overtaken by Alfonso Celis, and we go down the inside now of Calderon, sort of runner out of road in in trying to make that position up. But now you can see they're side by side ahead, Nick De Vries and Alfonso Celis. Obviously that McLaren is pretty good in the 2nd sector, but yeah, just no pace whatsoever in a straight line, as per usual, means that De Vries has been completely outdone. But anyway, we're going on to lap 3 now, and we are in fact just behind the McLaren driver, the young Dutchman. And well, what an exit we get there off La Source. We kept it in 3rd gear through La Source just to get some make sure not to get any wheel spin, and sure enough that was enough to get ahead of De Vries before we'd even made it to Eau Rouge. And now we get the DRS, and Lando Norris and Alfonso Celis are going at it. We take advantage of them battling to go down the inside of both of them, and just like last lap we sort of shut the door on the exit of the chicane. And then yeah, as we go towards the middle sector and towards the very understeery right-hander, we are into 7th position. It looks as if there's a little bit of battling up ahead for positions, so hopefully we'll be able to make up a few more places. I don't believe we've got to Matsushita yet. I could be wrong, I don't know, I might have overtaken him in that melee, but yeah, we're going to see what we can do now. And Antonio Fuoco just has no pace in the straight. And yes, I was right, Matsushita up in 4th position, but that's not going to last long, because we go down the inside of 3 cars, one of which being Pierre Gasly, but we run a little bit wide, and sure enough it is Gasly that takes advantage of that. So he goes up into 4th position, and we are going to stick behind him in 5th, but now it's going to be very, very difficult to, to actually catch up with the Red Bull driver, just because, in this middle sector, you can just see how much pace Pierre Gasly actually has. And there he goes, storming off into the distance. But that was pretty much it. And now you can see, coming round the final corner of lap 5 is Charles Leclerc. I mentioned he might be a dark horse, and he comes through to take his first victory of the season. Sergei Sorokin takes advantage of his great start to finish P2. And then in P3, Dan Ticktum, a great result for him. And yeah, so Leclerc wins, and we are currently in P5 still. Couldn't manage to make any inroads on Pierre Gasly, and we do manage to stay ahead of Fuoco just about. So we come across the line for a well-deserved double-digits point finish. So yeah, 10 points in the bag for us, and overall this episode, 18 points, not too bad whatsoever. One of the biggest point scorers in the whole field. But there you can see Charles Leclerc enjoying his victory here in Spa, and Fuoco pretty good battle I had with him. Very, very enjoyable. So some good points for him. And there you can see the final race results. So yeah, we've pretty much covered the top 6. Sellis, Matsushita, Schumacher and De Vries round out the points. So once again, points for Matsushita and De Vries. So yeah, they can't really complain at that too much. Our teammate's just outside the points, so he'll be disappointed with 13th, especially as he was ahead of us for the first lap of the race. So yeah, not great for him. But as we go now down the field, you can see Carlos Sainz finishing in last position. I mean, I know he started a long way down the grid, and also Ocon and Wehrlein into 17th and 18th, with Giovinazzi 16th. So it was a bizarre race further down, it has to be said, and that shows that the AI do often struggle to overtake. But still, Wehrlein holds second place in the driver's standings, but it is Charles Leclerc who moves into the lead, and we move up into P3, just ahead of Sergei Sirotkin and Dan Tickton. So it really is a messed up field at the moment, it has to be said. And there you can see the bottom half of the grid. So it's Norris, Calderon, Matsushita and De Vries that are still there. No surprises there. But next time out, guys, do make sure to join me for the season finale. We've got 2 races once again, Austria and then Malaysia is the season finale. I hope you did enjoy this one. Do take care. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.